We got to talk about corners. It's a big position of need for the Patriots. There's absolutely no way that you can ignore it, I think, at this point at the top of the draft. So the question really boils down to where are our tiers with the cornerback group? I think guys like, well, for Gardner from Cincinnati is definitely not going to be there, right? He's
Right.
going to be gone. There is some rumors about Stingley potentially falling, but I don't think it's going to be far enough. So now we get into the conversations about the Washington DBs, Andrew Booth Jr. from Clemson, Kaiir Elam from Florida. I think that makes up that next tier, that next group. And now we just kind of have to decide which one do we like and when does that drop off happen?
Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty significant drop, right?
I think I like Darian Kendrick from Georgia, Kobe Bryant, Josh Jobe. Those are some of the names in the next wave.
I think I like Booth from that group from the Patriots.
Yeah, me too.
Corners, but the other thing is corner is the position I could see them double dipping at. Definitely. I could see them going tackle, maybe even wide receiver in the first round, and then you go corner in like second and fourth, because we'll get to them in a little bit. There's there's two of them. There's two small school corners that I think really won the combine. But yeah, I'd probably go Booth. I know a lot of people like McDuffie. His size concerns me. And a lot of size concerns with corners are related to tackling. He's actually a very good tackler. I just worry about his ability to play trail, right? Like how much is he going to be able to make up if he gets beat? I think a guy like Booth is just physically better built for that. Yeah. And when you're going to play as much press as you are in New England, you have to be able to win from behind. So I'd go Booth. If people want to talk about McDuffie, I'll hear that. Elam, I don't know what it is about Elam. Like, I watch the tape. I register. I see a very good football player. There's something there that I can't define, that I almost have him a tier below those guys.
I did originally. I moved him up into that Gordon, McDuffie, Booth tier. I don't feel great about it. I put him in my mock draft at 37. Some people thought it was a little bit too low for him, thought he was going to be a first rounder. His tape is good. It's not flawless though, right? And I think the biggest thing that you see with Elam is he gets a little bit loose at the top of the route. He has some difficulty staying glued with receivers at the break point, and his hips transitions, he's a little bit segmented at the top of the route, right? So is that something that they can coach out of them? I think that there is a little bit of footwork issues that if he takes away some of his false stepping when the receiver breaks, that they might be able to get him to be more efficient through that point of the break and maybe be able to have him glue a little bit more. But he's somebody that when you watch him play against guys that run a lot of in-breaking routes, and there's somebody in Buffalo that runs a lot of those, right? In Stephon Diggs, that they're going to have to worry about. Those are the types of guys that I would have concerns with Elam. If he's pressing on the outside against a guy that plays mostly vertical route trees, then I think can shut that guy down. Absolutely no problem. But if you're going to get into a conversation of him guarding some of these quicker receivers, some of these more twitchy receivers at the top of the route, that's the biggest concern I had with him on tape and why I was reluctant at first. He goes into the 40. He definitely can run, right? So that we check that box. That's not the problem. So now the question is, can you fix the technique? Can you get him to be crisper and more efficient while he goes through the break point? I think the Patriots can get him there. I think that he's worth it. I think the other thing I really liked about him is that he's an alpha. That's a guy that doesn't back down. He went up against Jamison Williams. He went up against Treylon Burks. He went up against all these dogs in the SEC, right? Like all these great wide receivers. And he never backed down from anybody. And he was ready to go in all those matchups. And he won some. They won some. It was really something to really be impressed by, was how he rose to the occasion and really came up and stepped up to the challenge. So that was something that I liked about him as well. Because if you're going to play corner in the NFL, you're going to get beat a lot. So you're going to have that short memory, and you're going to have that confidence.
Yeah, it's set up for you to get beat. Like if you're a corner, the whole game's designed for you to lose.
Right.
So
yeah.
Can we get to the late round corners though? Because that was the highlight of the combine. He's like Jordan Davis.
Yeah. I mean, I want to say one thing really quickly.
Okay.
I don't want him to draft anybody from the Pac-12.
I'm hate the Pac-12.
I'm out on.
That would make sense. You hate fun. The Pac-12 is fun.
I'm out on Kyler Gordon. I'm out on all of them. You know why? Because
McDuffie
out.
Okay.
Short arms, small, undersized, doesn't run as fast as he plays. The biggest concern that I have with drafting guys in the Pac-12 is that everybody in the Pac-12 that can run a somewhat good 40-yard dash looks fast. Everybody, right? And then you get into the pros and you get into all these other these higher levels of competition, and they get outrun by all of them. Like N'Keal Harry runs a 4.53, plays in the Pac-12, looks fast in the Pac-12, and then can't move in the NFL, right? So I don't know I just don't think that conference translates at the skill positions as well as some of these other conferences. If they're going to take a swing at a corner early, I'd much rather it be a guy like Elam from the SEC or a guy like Booth that went to Clemson, right? Give me one of these guys that comes from a program where guys run, that guys are fast, right? And I just don't. A guy like Trent McDuffie looked like he was a 4.4, a sub 4.4 guy. Like he streaks across the tape at Washington. He's tackling guys going one side of the field to the other, and it just doesn't translate. And that's a big problem that I have.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
Go to your day 3.
You don't like Pac-12 after dark. If you want speed, though.
I'm not saying it's not entertaining. I just don't like it. I just don't like how it translates to the NFL. Go ahead.
I will say I was a little thrown. When we grew up, right, all the fastest players in the draft went to Oregon. Every year there was an Oregon guy going to the combine, setting records. Kenyon Barner, DeAnthony Thomas, right? They had the fastest team every single year. I texted my brother this during the combine. I forget who it was. It was some Oregon receiver, ran like a 4.65. And I texted my brother, I was like, that's wrong. Oregon, I get what you're saying about Pac-12. If you're at Oregon, their linemen should be running 4.6. Like that's how I think of Oregon. Anyway, little side college football.
What you of Washington DBs have worked out in the NFL, please?
Lawyer Malloy.
Okay, Alex, that's 20 years ago. What?
I don't care. Do not disrespect Lawyer Malloy. I'm not going to stand for that. I'm not going to sit here and let you disrespect Lawyer Malloy.
Lawyer Malloy, but like recently, I think Byron Jones is probably the best one, right, from the U of Washington. It's a good player, but he's a nickel. The Patriots don't need a nickel.
A lot of good slot corners from the Pac-12.
Yeah, maybe slot corners translate from the Pac-12. Outside corners, it's hit or miss. Marcus Peters, I mean.
Oh, Richard Sherman, Stanford.
He went to Stanford. He didn't go to Washington, though.
That's Pac-12. You said Pac-12.
That's true. All right, give me your
Washington, I don't know. You want to talk speed, though. All right, you want to talk speed? Let's talk speed.
Yes.
What did I oversell Tariq Woolen? You didn't know that much about him. I'm just sitting on here. I'm telling you about this guy who sounds like a folk hero, 6'4", used to be a wide receiver, going to run a 4.1, 340, right? Did I oversell Tariq Woolen, Evan? Did I oversell him?
You're taking a lot of victory laps today, but go ahead.
I'm asking you on this one. Did I oversell him?
No,
I'm not taking a victory lap. I'm asking you a question.
You were 100% right. I can't deny it.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think, and he looked natural in the drills too. He looked natural in the open field drills. His stock's up. He's a top 100 pick now. This is another guy who was outside of the 150 going into the Senior Bowl. But, man, if they can get their hands on him, the way they've coached up corners here in the past, if they can get their hands, doesn't he feel like, is there a comp for like what his ceiling would be? I don't really know that there is.
The thing is so when he's super raw and in the way that he plays on the outside.
Super raw, very far away. Yeah.
Very far away. But I honestly wonder if, and I know that this is probably going to bug you, but I honestly wonder if he fails at corner, he's got so much play speed that like, maybe just make him a safety, right? Like maybe try him out back there because
you move him back to wide receiver.
Well, I think the biggest concern that I had with him on tape was technically his hips just weren't as smooth as you want him to be in press man. And I don't know if he's got really the agility or the hip fluidity, I guess, and the transitions to be able to truly lock up a guy on the outside. But with that type of play speed, and I do think he'll tackle, he'd play a lot of special teams, right? Yeah. So I think you start him out at corner, see if you can work with him and see if you can develop him there. If it doesn't work out, him at free safety with that kind of length and that kind of range and that kind of speed, in size to be able to bring the hit stick too from back there. It's not a bad profile to play safety either. So it's somebody that you just draft and you try to develop and figure it out, and maybe you have a position switch at some point there too.
Well, I know there are scouts who view him as a safety right now, who just want to make that switch day one.
Yeah.
So you know, it's a really good point. He's going to cover a ton of ground. He's going to compete as a deep safety on jump balls. Obviously, 6'4", right? Yeah, I think there's so much potential there. Somebody will figure it out. And again, to link him to the Patriots, here's a guy who can come in on day one. He's going to contribute in the kicking game.
Yeah.
Right. Absolutely made in the lab as a gunner, with the length to get off the press at the line, the speed to get down the field. Height actually helps in terms of downing punts down towards the goal line. It gives you more reach. He'd probably be a pretty good kick returner, right? He's got that speed. He has experience with the ball in his hand. I think I'd give him a shot at it. I don't know if he did it in college. I'll look in a second, but there's at the very, very, very least, right? There's tremendous special teams. There's a tremendous special teams floor, not even ceiling, floor. Would I put it past the Patriots to take a guy for special teams in the 4th round? Absolutely not. I could totally see it. And then if he happens to turn into an all-pro corner, that's awesome, right? So there's another guy.
How many times have we seen this happen, though? That they draft a corner, they'll draft Elam in the 2nd round, it won't work out, and they'll hit on Tariq Woolen later on, or they'll hit on Zion McCollum, who we're going to talk about here.
That's the other guy
later on, right? Like that's what happens. Like they're going to hit on the guy from Sam Houston State, and they're going to miss on the guy from Florida. Like this is Duke Dawson and J.C. Jackson all over again. But Zion McCollum's on my list to watch.
Real quick on Woolen. Did not return kicks in college, but kind of just to lead into your point, the only reason I'm not going on DHgate and getting a Tariq Woolen Patriots jersey right now is because I think they're going to, Woolen is going to be the value corner versus like Elam or Booth. Right. I think after what McCollum did, he's going to be, and he wasn't even on my radar going into the combine, but now I'm like, how is he not? He's going to be the value version of Woolen, I think, where it's going to be, we could get Woolen in the 4th or we can get McCollum in the 6th.
Right.
So
you put up that kind of 3-cone time. You're already on the Patriots list. Senior Bowl guy, FCS domination, right? They love those guys. The guys that have huge production at lower levels, Kyle Duggars, those types of guys. McCollum, 13 picks, 6 forced fumbles, which I'm sure they'll love too, down at the FCS level at Sam Houston State. Didn't have a good Senior Bowl week. He was at the Senior Bowl. It wasn't pretty.
Right.
He got beat by a lot of receivers at the Senior Bowl, but certainly somebody that has the athletic traits to work with, tested through the roof, and is a really good athlete. Before we wrap it up, I would just say
on McCollum too.
Yes,
he plays the way they want corners to play. Press man at Sam Houston. Right. He's 6'2". There's not gonna be as much of a learning curve for him versus a guy maybe coming in from like his own scheme, right? He's gonna understand the assignments day one.
Yeah, Daniel Jeremiah called him one of the best press man corners in the draft before he ran his 40. So it's a guy that definitely can play man coverage, and if I can get my hands on some Sam Houston State tape, then I'll definitely do a full report.
The national champions, so
yeah. Thanks for watching our content of the 6-time Super Bowl champion New England Patriots. Please subscribe to my podcast, Patriots Beat, on our YouTube channel, Patriots Press Pass, or wherever you get your podcasts for a lot more exclusive content right here on the CLNS Media Network.